Hi everyone, I'm Glenda with SureFit Designs, commonly referred to as Glenda the Good Stitch. You know, if you've ever watched any of my live chats or broadcasts, I always invite you that if you have any questions, make sure you email myself or your international distributor. And one of the questions that we seem to get is all about drawing the backside seam. And for some reason or other, it causes a little bit of mental confusion. So in this video, I'm going to focus just on the side seam and the elements that affect the front and the back side seam. So we're going to be drawing off the SureFit Designs bodice, but only in the side seam locations. That means that everything else has been drawn ahead of time, because the focus of this presentation isn't to show you how to draw off all of this. You can get that information in the SureFit Designs instruction book that comes within the dress kit. And for those of you who are new, this is the SureFit Designs dress kit, and it's going to suit your size, your measurements, anywhere from 28 inches, which is 71 centimeters, up to 62 inches or 157.5 centimeters. All you do is mark in your measurement dots and connect them together. And that's what the dress kit instruction book shows you how to do. Now, we also know that there's a lot of you who are visual learners. And so we have two excellent DVDs on drawing off the different patterns. The first one I'll mention is our how-to DVD. Now this actually is a 2-disc set. On disc 1, it shows you how to draw off all of the components that are inside the dress kit. And on disc number 2, it shows you how to draw off the pants, the shirt, and the children's patterns that are, of course, from SureFit Designs. But we also have a much more intensive, what we call bodice fitting course DVD. And here I give you some of the insider tips and more in-depth information than I'm able to put into the generalized how-to DVD. I already can hear some of you saying, I don't have a DVD player anymore. Well, we've got you covered, because when you do purchase a physical DVD, you will receive a 100% discount code for going and watching it in a streaming format, which means you can watch it on your computer, your tablet, or your smartphone. So lots and lots of visual helps to get you going on the entire SureFit Designs process. But as I said earlier, I'd like to focus just on drawing off the side seam of the front of the pattern and the back of the pattern. Now, the particular measurements that I'm going to use are going to be standard, because I'm going to show you how to draw off a B-cup pattern as well as an E-cup pattern, okay? But everything else in the drawing of this particular example will be the same. I'm going to use a 40-inch bust circumference, which means that at center front I mark in the 40, at the neck point I mark in 40, at the shoulder point is 40, and at the underarm is 40, as well as at the top leg of the bust grading series of dots. And then of course you just utilize your designing styles to connect all of your dots together. Then another common measurement that we will use is a shoulder to apex of 11 inches and a shoulder down to waist of 18 inches. But in this sample, I'm going to show you how to draw the B-cup dart, and then in the next one, I'll show you how to draw the E-cup dart, because I want you to see what happens to the side seam length, and it's all dependent on the fullness of your bust line. So let's take a quick example of this. Let's say that you're measuring yourself from your shoulder over your apex down to your waist, and maybe you're an A or a B cup dart. You're going to get one, whatever that length dimension is. We'll call it dimension A. But now you're a double D, an E, or maybe a G or an F cup dart. And so that tape measure needs to come over the fullest part of your bust then go down to your waist. So you're going to get a longer dimension. Now, the bigger your bust, the wider your dart needs to be. And we do that and give you the correct bra cup size utilizing the SureFit Designs Adjust-A-Bust template. Now, on this template, you will see 6 different bra cup sizes: A, B, C, D, double D, and E. The smaller your bust, the narrower your dart. The bigger your bust, the wider your dart. And beside every bra cup size, there's a little series of holes, and you simply mark through them to mark in your specific bra cup size. So because this example is going to be a B, I'll find the B cup hole, and I'm going to place it over top of the bust grading series of dots. So we'll put it right here. That says bra cup B, and then I'm going to take the template. Using this as a pivot point, I'm going to pivot the fold line of the template towards your apex marking. Then I'll mark off the side legs of the dart right here. Now, you never want your dart to stitch right up to the tip of your apex because that wouldn't look very flattering in a finished garment. You always mark back about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So I will do that, and now I've got my dots that I need to join together. And by the way, I should say that that Adjust-A-Bust template is found inside the dress kit. And then all you do is connect your darts together, and I'm going to do this in bright blue so that you can really see this dart being formed. And then you need to draw in the side legs of the dart like this, and that puts in the B cup dart. So you can see, as I said, it's relatively narrow because the bust is small. So now we need to take a look at finishing off this side seam. Well, finishing off the side seam is dependent on how long your waist level is. This particular example, I said, is an 18-inch long waist level. And you can see that it's falling below the waist guideline that's on the master pattern. So what I need to do now is simply release the tracing vellum, and I've just got it taped up there onto my master pattern, and I need to shift the tracing vellum up until her waist guideline, which was 18 inches long, lines up with the waist guideline on the master pattern. And while I'm doing this, just let me mention to you that these directions are all found on page 10, number 19 of the dress kit instruction book. This was actually step number 19, I believe it was. And now we're going on to step number 20, which elevates the tracing vellum if you need to. Some of you are short-waisted, you might have needed to shift it down. And then what you do is mark in your waist measurement dot. Again, for sake of demonstration, we're going to use a common waist measurement of 32 inches. And here are your waist measurement dots right there on the master pattern. Then all I need to do is measure, or not measure, but mark or draw down from the underarm, not the underarm, from the bottom leg of the dart to that waist dot, and that establishes the waist length. Now let's measure this and see how long it is. So we're going to measure the length of the side seam minus the dart. So I'm just taking the tape measure and measuring from the underarm to the top leg of the dart, and then I'll take that measurement, place it on the bottom leg of the dart, and measure down to that waist dot. And that distance is 8 5/8 inches. I'll just draw this and write it over here, 8 5/8 inches. Now, I'm not going to finish drawing off the rest of the pattern here at the bottom. Again, as I said, that wasn't my purpose to draw off the entire thing, but rather just to focus on the side seam. So now we're going to take a look at the back bodice, and we go over here, and once again, I have already pre-drawn, and the directions when you're on the back of the bodice tell you how to do that as well when you're in the instruction book. But now I need to make this side seam length be exactly the same length as this side seam length minus the dart. So you'll remember that I measured this and it was 8 5/8 inches long. So what I need to do is measure from the underarm point down, and I'm just going to make a little line coming across like this, and that line now needs to shift up. In this case, again, if you're short-waisted, you'd shift it down, and it needs to line up with the waist guideline on the master pattern. So I will simply release my tracing vellum. I'm going to shift up until I've got that lined up exactly. The only thing you need to keep in mind when you're shifting is that you make sure that the straight of grain and the center back is exactly on the markings of the master pattern so that you're not throwing off that grain line. Then you mark in the waist measurement number, which is exactly the same, of course, as on the front, and then you connect from the underarm point down. And we need to see what length that is. Well, it should be exactly the same, shouldn't it? Because I measured minus the dart, and that's what I put over here. So from the underarm point to the waist dot is exactly 8 5/8 inches. Again, I'm not going to finish this off. That wasn't the purpose of this demonstration. But we're going to prove this to you. That is exactly the same. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to move it over to the front, and we'll just test this. So I'm going to line up the underarm point to the underarm point on the bodice front. Then I'll make a little mark right there that indicates the top leg of the dart. Then I take that marking and move it down to the bottom leg of the dart, and you can see that those side seams are exactly the same length. So that's a B-cup dart. Now I'm just going to remove these so that I can show you an E-cup setting. So let's go over and take a look at these patterns that I've done some previous drawing on. This is for the E-cup now. Again, we're using the same set of dimensions. We're saying that the bust circumference is 40 inches, that shoulder to apex is 11 inches, and shoulder to waist is 18 inches. But this person has an E-cup dart shape. And I have gone ahead and drawn this ahead of time, but please realize that you would simply be using the Adjust-A-Bust template that is found within the dress kit, and you use the E-cup dart shape. So it's considerably wider. I would take the hole for the E-cup dart, place it over top of the bust grading series of dots, aim the fold line towards the apex, mark off the side legs of the dart, and then measure back the inch to the inch and a half for the dart tip, and then join all my points together. So it's exactly the same process. But now we're going to end up with a shorter front side seam. So let's do this and take this pattern, this drawn pattern, and I actually want to put this now over on this bodice front master pattern, because I want you to see what's going to happen to the waistline. Okay, so now we've got our waistline that is, again, below the waist marking on the master pattern. I need to shift this up, and so I'm just going to reposition the pattern like this. And now I can finish drawing off the waistline. Again, we're going to use exactly the same measurement number for the waist dimension, and then I will connect the bottom leg of the dart to the waist dot. Now, because I have put in a wider dart here, I am going to get a shorter side seam length. So let's measure this one and see what we come up with. Underarm point to top leg of the dart. Pretend like you're sewing that dart out and move that measurement down to the bottom leg of the dart and measure to the waist dot. And that is exactly 7 inches. So I'll mark that out over here. 7 inches compared to the B-cup example that I gave you, which was 8 5/8 inches long for the side seam. Now let's take a look at the back bodice. Here we have the back bodice for the E-cup shape. Now, again, I have drawn and pre-established the 40 markings on the master pattern, and I've traced it off on the tracing vellum. So let's now take this and move it over to the bodice back pattern like this, because this is where you would end up with, or you would end up being, I should say, when you start drawing off for your E-cup shape. Now, I need to make the side seam on the E-cup be exactly the same length as on the E-cup bodice front. And there it is 7 inches long. So again, I'll take my tape measure and I'm going to measure down from the underarm point, and I'm going to make a marking right here that is 7 inches long. Okay? Pardon my arm being in the way there. 7 inches long. Now, in this circumstance, the waist level marking is above the waist guideline on the back of the pattern. And you might ask yourself, why is that? On the B-cup dart, it was below, and I needed to shift the tracing vellum up. But because this woman has a bigger dart and a bigger cup in the front of her body, it means her side seam length is shorter, okay? Because we've got a longer distance to go over the front. So now what I need to do in order to get the side seam finished is I am going to shift my tracing vellum down. So now at this position, I shift down until that waist guideline lines up with the waist guideline on the master pattern. And let me just make sure that those lines are straight here. And now I can mark off the waist measurement dot, again exactly the same as it was on the front, and connect the side seam together from the underarm to the waist dot. And again, I'm not going to draw off the rest of it. That wasn't the purpose of this demonstration. We'll measure again just to be on the safe side. That is exactly 7 inches long. And so when I now take the B-cup back and the E-cup back and compare them, you're going to see quite a difference. So let's just do that. Let's put the B-cup back right over here, and we'll just pin it up onto the board here. And you can see how long the side seam is there. And now I'm going to take the E-cup back and I'm going to place that over top. And because I've done it in a different color, you can see how different the lengths of the back bodices are. And that's because the side seam for the E became shorter because I had a longer distance to go over the bust line. So that's how the side seam on the back ends up being longer or shorter depending on the fullness of your bust. So remember I said to you that I always invite our customers to email either myself or our international distributors with questions. So not that long ago, one of the ladies emailed and said, Glenda, I completely get how to measure the side seam minus the dart, and I end up with this short side seam, because she was 19 inches long in the front and she had a very full bust. And she said, I get this really short side seam. I understand all of that, and that's going to match with the front side seam. But she says, I'm 19 inches long in the front, and when I measure my back pattern from my shoulder down, she says the 19 comes down to here. How do I accommodate that when my back ends there? And I had to chuckle a little bit. And I wrote back and I said, well, I hope this is going to be your big aha light bulb moment. I said, the reason that you don't get 19 inches long in the back of your body is because you don't have a bust in the back of your body. And so she emailed me back and she was just very courteous. And she said, oh, Glenda, she said, that was one big whopper of an aha moment. She said, you're absolutely right. I totally get it now. And that's why the back will never be the same length as the front unless you are totally flat in the front and totally flat in the back. Okay? So I really hope this has helped to clear up this whole issue of the side seam lengths in relation to the back fitting to the front. And before I close this video, there is one last thing that I would like to say. Please make sure that when you're at home, you're drawing your patterns on a flat table surface and you're using a pencil. I only demonstrate on the wall with these heavy ink markers so that you can see everything that I am doing. At home, please make sure you're on the table. So one of the things that's really important is that once you've got your bust dart drawn, is that you perfect the cutting line for the dart. And what do I mean by the cutting line? Well, it's this dart extension right here, and it needs to be perfected to get the correct cutting line. And that's so that your side seams from front to back will sew together nicely in your finished garment. And so it's called perfecting or truing the bust dart. We do have directions for that in the dress kit instruction book, but we also have some video directions for that on a couple of other free videos that we have for you. And so we are going to be giving you a playlist at the end of this video that's going to give you some free videos to watch how to perfect the bust fitting dart. And you're going to see those videos on this screen, and then the other thing that you're seeing is a little round circle for a subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would appreciate it if you did. Just click that little button. It helps to support all the free videos that we present to you on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I do hope to see you in the next video.